Santa, tell me if you're really there. Don't make me fall in love again if you won't be here next year.
Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today's Bookmas video is going to be all about Christmas movies and the books that they remind me of. So I think there might be a couple of tag videos out there that follow this same topic. If there are, I will link them down below for you guys, but this is kind of like the Christmas song book tag that I do, but this time it's going to be all about Christmas movies, and it is just inspired by the Christmas movies that I watch year after year after year that mean a lot to me. So let's just get into it. So the first Christmas movie is Elf, and for this one I'm going to be talking about a funny book, and I went with My Lady Jane by the Lady Janies. My Lady Jane is one of the funniest and just most fun overall books that I've ever read, and it was amazing, and I love it so much for its humor. It had me laughing out loud, which I feel like really doesn't happen that often in books, or at least for me, but I was having such a great time reading this. It was such an enjoyable experience, and I can't wait for My Plain Jane next year. I actually just pre-ordered it, and I'm like so excited about it. The next Christmas movie is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and for this one I was inspired by the Island of Misfit Toys, and I decided to go with a book that no one else really likes but you really enjoy. So I went with The Crowns Game by Evelyn Skye. I feel like this has a lot of mixed opinions on it, and from my understanding the main thing is that people think it's too similar to The Night Circus, which I have read, but I don't really remember it well enough to compare the two. I actually just repurchased it because I want to reread it and then compare the two, but for now I did really enjoy this book. I thought it was awesome. I had such a great time reading it. It was so magical and whimsical, and I just loved the Russian setting. It's about these two characters that are competing to be the Tsar's apprentice, and it was just so cool. So I really enjoyed it, but it definitely has very mixed reviews. Next up is It's a Wonderful Life, a classic that you were expecting to hate but ended up really enjoying. So for this I went with Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery because I grew up with this story. I grew up with the movie version, and I feel like as a Canadian kid you just grow up with the story in one way or another, but as a kid I did not enjoy watching the movie. I found it really boring. But then I was assigned to read this in my Canadian literature class in my second year of university, and I ended up loving it. I just fell in love with Anne and her imagination, and I was like, how could I have hated this as a kid? It is so fun. So that is definitely a classic that I enjoyed that I really thought I wouldn't. And the reason for that prompt is because It's a Wonderful Life is a super old movie, and I did not think I would like it, but I love this movie. I think it's so good, so touching and heartwarming, and I really enjoy it. Next up is A Christmas Carol, a retelling that you will never get sick of, and I decided to go with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. So any retellings of Alice in Wonderland I feel like I just automatically enjoy pretty much. I don't think I've ever read any that I haven't loved. Splintered, I really enjoyed the first one, but then the other two were just okay for me, or at least the last one was just kind of meh. But overall, I do really love Alice in Wonderland retellings just by nature, and just the fact that they are talking about Alice and just using that whimsy that Carol is known for. I feel like I just automatically love them. At least the ones that I've read so far, because there are a few out there that I haven't read yet, but the ones that I've read, I've really enjoyed. And my thinking behind this prompt was the fact that there are literally a million retellings of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, or not retelling so much, but like remakes of it. I own probably 10 of them, and we watch like all 10 every single year. Next up is Home Alone, a book that everyone else loves but you don't like as much. Yes, I don't like Home Alone. I actually hate Home Alone, but I don't hate this book, but I don't really enjoy it as much as everyone else, and that is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. Waiting for the hate to come rolling in. Now, the first three books in this trilogy, I read them when I was in like grade 9 or something, and I really enjoyed them. I liked them a lot. And yes, I said trilogy because I read it when it was a trilogy, and then I reread them because they were adding the last three books, or they had already done the last two, and the very last one was coming out, so I reread them, and I didn't enjoy them as much as I had initially. And then when I read those last three books, I just felt like they were very unnecessary, and I just feel like I'm kind of done with the world and over it a little bit. I'm sorry, don't hate me, just a personal opinion. If you love it, continue loving it. That is good. You love a book, you're into a book world, that is awesome, but it's just not for me anymore. Next up is Annabelle's Wish, a book that gives you intense nostalgia, and I chose this because Annabelle's Wish, I don't know if anyone else knows of this movie, but I used to love watching this as a kid. It's so sad, but it's so cute, and I absolutely adored this story, but I feel like no one else really knows it. But for this one, I decided to go with the Magic Treehouse series by Mary Mary Pope Osborne. I don't own them anymore, unfortunately. I really need to purchase them again, but I loved those books so much as a kid. And they're really the first series of books that I remember absolutely adoring and just falling in love with and wanting to read over and over again. So they mean a lot to me, as does this movie. And if you haven't seen it, go and watch it because it's so cute and you will probably cry, but it is beautiful. Next up is Eloise at Christmas Time, a book that you could read over and over again every single year. The reason for this prompt is because on every Christmas Eve we watch Eloise at Christmas Time because there's that one part where she's like, it's Christmas Eve, and then everything happens and it's tons of fun and I love this movie. Eloise is like so annoying, but there's just something about this movie that I absolutely adore and I never get tired of watching it every single year. But for this one I went with Surprisingly Not Alice, and Surprisingly Not the Book Thief, and Not the Fault in Our Stars, but I went with Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. I feel like Harry Potter is a series that you never get sick of, and there's never a perfect time for it because it's perfect year round. It's a perfect Halloween read because it's got like witches and stuff and it just has a fall atmosphere, but then it's also a perfect winter read because of Christmas in it. It's honestly just a year-round perfect story to reread over and over again and gain something from it every time. I actually really want to reread it right now, but I have way too many books that I haven't actually read yet that I own that I need to read before I can reread things. Next up is Jack Frost. Look at this VHS. This is like a relic right here. But for this one I went with an emotionally intense read, and there are tons that I could have picked, but I went with Salt to the Sea by Rudy Sepetys because this is a book that just had my heart heavy the entire time. You just grow to love these characters and feel for them as they're trying to flee from Germany at the tail end of World War II, and you know that their fate is inevitably going to be awful, but you keep on hoping and hanging on to that hope, and it keeps you throughout the story, and you're just hooked the entire time wanting these characters to come out okay and really feeling for them. So it is just a read that like you need a box of Kleenex next to you for it. Next is The Nutcracker, a book that you have no words to describe how much you love it, and that is because The Nutcracker is a ballet, so there's no words, so I felt like that was clever. But I went with The Book Thief by Markus Zusak because I honestly love this book so much that I have no clue how to describe my love for it. And the final movie is the Santa Claus movie, one of my favorite trilogies. I love the Santa Claus movie trilogies. We watch them year after year after year and I just really adore them. But for this one I decided to go with the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. This is one that individually I would give all of these books a 4 out of 5 stars. I think the last one might be my favorite. And it's really funny saying this because you guys might remember if you've been here for a long time and you watch like all of my videos that I was really upset when they made this a trilogy instead of a duology because it was supposed to be a duology and I was like, great, I love duologies, and there weren't many at the time. Now we have quite a few. But then they decided to do a trilogy and I was very apprehensive, not excited at all for the last book, but I ended up really loving it. Now, well, like I said, I would give the books individually a 4 out of 5 stars. The trilogy as a whole is a 5 out of 5 stars because this is one of those trilogies where you see every single character in here develop. It really comes full circle and I love that. It's just a complete trilogy and I don't know how I thought it could just be a duology because no, it needed to be a trilogy. But I love the fact that it's not just the main character that you see change and grow as a person over time. You can watch from book to book each character grow a little bit. The character development in these books is insane. It's just one of my favorite character development arcs ever. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just thought it was fun to kind of associate it with my own Christmas movies that I watch all the time. I didn't do The Grinch just because I did that for the song one, so I figured I'd already talked about it and there's only so much I could do with that movie. But now you know a little bit about the Christmas movies that I love and I have grown up with. If you guys did enjoy this video and you don't want to miss any of the videos for Bookmas, then don't forget to subscribe. I put out new videos every Monday and Thursday for my regular schedule, but right now it is Bookmas, so I'm putting out a video every single day all the way up until Christmas and then after as well. You can also follow me on my social media. My Twitter is @HailesInBookland and I will be posting there about Bookmas, and I also have Instagram and my Instagram is @HaileyInBookland, but all that information is down below for you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you tomorrow for tomorrow's Bookmas video. Bye!
Just see those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting-a-ting-a-ling. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside, the snow is falling and friends are calling.